Okay, today we're taking a quick look at probably my favorite AR pistol that I've ever built. Now, this one has some high dollar parts on it, but I got everything at kind of a screaming deal because I was patient and I spent the money wisely. So I'm not advising you to buy anything. YouTube, don't get too angry at me. I'm just going to give a brief overview of this firearm. We're in a safe environment. Now, this gun in the state of California is fixed magazine, meaning I can drop the mag when the action is open, but when the action is closed, I can't drop the mag. This, you might see, is a Radian ADAC lower receiver, which you might not think is possible, but it is, and we'll kind of briefly touch on that sort of towards the end if I remember, because this is the low effort, low information quality YouTube channel. But so let's talk about this gun. Now, a lot of these parts on this gun are companies that I've worked with in the past or companies that I really like. Products that I really like. I paid full price for pretty much everything except for some of the smaller stuff on this gun. But, so, lower receiver. This is a Radian ADAC lower receiver, which, if we take a look here, we just locked the bolt back by pressing the mag release. We can close the bolt by pressing that there. As a lefty, we have ambi controls, which work the same, which is pretty neat. So I really do like this setup. I think it's a fantastic option. It's a great lower receiver. Inside the lower, we have a Geissele SD3G trigger. We'll just show you that trigger one more time. It's blazing fast, super light. It just kind of has a bit of a rolling brake, so there's no wall. It just boom. You can slap this trigger as hard as you want and still get accurate hits. The magwell on it is from Driven Arms Co., as is the grip. This is a UCGLF full size or something. It's one of their newer grips. It's a little bit bigger. Similar size to a Magpul K2. I really like this grip. It's very comfortable. It puts my wrist in a good angle that I feel like I can pull the trigger very, very quickly. Some of the grips that are significantly more vertically oriented, I just hate. I really do not like them. I have pretty good wrist, hand, joint mobility in general, but I think that the overly vertical grips, I don't like them. This fills my hand pretty good. We have a Radian safety on it because this is the Radian lower. The rear, to make the fixed mag more usable, is a AR Maglock Kingpin, the superior AR Maglock rear pin device. So Driven Arms Co. magwell, Driven Arms Co. grip, Driven Arms Co. angled foregrip kind of hand stop thing. I think they call it the short chop or the short stop, one of the two. But that's the lower receiver, the lower half of the gun. In the rear, we have an A5H3 buffer. So this has a longer buffer tube with a longer buffer with more spring coils, which smooths out the recoil, gives you a wider operational envelope. And to demonstrate that for myself and just for testing purposes, I've ran this gun with a suppressor and without a suppressor with an A5H3 buffer. And it, without the suppressor, perfect ejection every single time. I'm getting a 330 or 4 o'clock ejection without a suppressor. With a suppressor, it moves it up to about 230. On the rear, we have the best, most stable wrist stabilizing blade brace on the market. This is the SBA5. Underneath the tape here, I have an extra pin. If for whatever reason the fixed magazine device falls out when I open this fully up, I have a spare pin in here so that I don't get in trouble when I'm transporting it home. The upper receiver is a Daniel Defense Contract Overrun 11.5. You might be thinking that's probably a pretty pricey upper, and the MSRP on it is rather high, but I got mine from PSA on a screaming deal for a price that you wouldn't believe. So if you want to get those, anytime I see them, I post them up on my Twitter, but I can't post that kind of stuff here. So Daniel Defense 11.5-inch fixed front sight post M-LOK rail that is free floated with a Daniel Defense bolt carrier group, Daniel Defense ambi charging handle. Now, I'm typically a Radian man when it comes to ambi charging handles, but This one works just fine. It's good. There's a lot of great charging handles. The Radian is my default just because I've used so many of them and they're fairly affordable. They're in an appropriate price point for the market. The Daniel Fence one that it came with, it's good. It has a Magpul polymer dust cover with a Daniel Defense logo on it. All in all, this gun is gassed actually pretty well. 11.5 inch is probably my favorite 5.56 short barrel setup because I think that you still get decent velocity for 5.56 55 grain projectiles without really getting so long that you're basically using a rifle. So I find that this sort of length of overall package, now I'm 6'2", I'm about 200 pounds just for reference. This gun handles very well for me. So I really do like it. I think that 11.5 is a really good barrel length. On the front, we have a Rearden muzzle device, which I believe I got this from Revival Defense. They've been the homies. I helped them get some exposure early on because I really liked the owner. He just seemed like a friendly guy. He reached out to me. All the products on Revival Defense are really good and stuff that I would vouch for. So this is a 3-prong muzzle device. I don't find that I notice it making any loud pinging sounds. I don't know how they accomplish that. I think it's by making these somewhat slightly different so that it doesn't resonate. But it has threads to attach a suppressor, which I do to work purposes. So my employer, Manzana Munitions, they have access to suppressors, and every once in a while we will test this up or out and just kind of see. We'll do some scientific testing for suppressor purposes so that we can demo them in legal manners in the state of California. So I've ran it suppressed, ran it unsuppressed. It's totally fine both ways because it has that A5 buffer tube. It's a little bit more forgiving. I don't have any issues with this gun. I've probably got about 1,500 rounds through this gun with like 2/3 of that being suppressed. And I've not had any jams, no malfunctions, no failures to feed, no failures to eject. I just lube the gun up because when you run a suppressor with high back pressure, like the OCL Polonium K that I've been running on this gun occasionally, you find that they get dirty very fast. So lube is your friend. If I've taught you anything on either of my YouTube channels, just know that lube is good and you should use plenty of it. I don't know if I like that sentence. Anyways, we also then have the Holosun Raid weapon light. It's an affordable weapon light. It's rather bright. It has a pressure pad. There's some quirks to it that I don't like. For example, the momentary, like that was a pretty quick tap, but that wasn't, like in order to make it go not constant on with just a quick tap, you have to kind of press for a good amount of time. Like I don't feel like I like that time. Maybe that's a firmware thing that they can update for a generation 2, but it's got a pressure pad and a rear clicky tab on the back, which is either constant on or momentary, depending on if you just give it a quick tap. My main gripe with that is just that it requires too much time to go into pressure only. So it's constant on if you give it a tap, but that tap has to be pretty long before it just auto shuts off. This is compatible with old style Surefire Scout mounts, and I have a Meteorite Concepts light mount. I can't remember exactly what they call it, but it allows you to angle this however you like, which I really do like because it allows me to change the angle on this. On this setup, it's not particularly necessary, but on some setups, especially with night vision involved, you want that pivoting mount, and you might have an existing old school Scout mount setup that you want to be able to have a little bit of pivot. So for me, it's a nice light. It's an okay light. I'll leave it at that. There's some quirks, but it's plenty bright, and if you're just gonna be long pressing and then let off, you're fine. I just find that sometimes the press has to be pretty long in order for it to turn off. So yeah, that's this gun. When it comes to fixed magazine solutions, I did this freehand, and I don't recommend that. But you can see here, I kind of messed it up. If you look right there, you can see that spring. So if I pop this pin, there's a little pin there, and what that does is when the action is closed, prevents you from working the mag release. So mag release doesn't move. Now it's moving. Now it doesn't move. Now it's moving. Now I've tuned this up to get bolt lock reloads completely fine, but I did this freehand. It's a company called JL Billet. There's already a hole on the radian lower that I just hand drilled through, but now they make a jig. JL Billet recently released their jig to allow you to make any gun fixed magazine, and it was rather difficult because the mag catch that I have to drill a little tiny divot hole into is hardened tool steel. So you're gonna need some very fancy drill bits, but hopefully that's something that they offer, or you at least know the right size due to them now offering the jig to be able to do this to any gun. I'm not gonna say that I'm the reason that they started doing that. And in fact, this wasn't my original idea. I saw a username on Reddit who showed that this was possible. I asked him for the instructions. I purchased the pins and the spring, and then I did it. And then I harassed JL Billet a couple times asking if they would ever make a jig. And then eventually they did, which that's cool. So yeah, shout out to that user on Reddit that showed me that this was possible. All in all, I think this is just a very handy, nice setup. On top, I have a SIG Romeo 4XT Pro. I know how you guys feel about SIG, but their optics, unironically, their rifle optics are fantastic. The 320, it's been a bit of a nightmare being an enjoyer of shooting the 320 series firearm, but their optics are actually very, very good. This has great battery life. It's got multiple reticle options. It's very, very durable. It's got great night vision performance. Not quite as good as the EXPS3 for this one, but pretty dang close. So I'm actually just, all in all, I'm very happy with this rifle, or this pistol, because it's a pistol. I'm really happy with this pistol. I like how it shoots. It's a good setup. I got the Radian ADAC lower for a good price from Manzana Munitions. I got the upper for a great price from PSA through the Daniel Defense Contract Overrun. And the gun just freaking works. And I know that I could trust everything on this gun with my life. The fixed magazine setup is easily removed. So if I am shooting outside the state of California, I don't got to worry about that. But yeah, let me know. Just wanted to talk about this. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.